Hi, I'm Lithazine, and I'm going to show you how the Crystal Coves level was created for Particle Planet. Particle Planet uses a lot of procedural modeling to create its levels. So we start in Photoshop with a procedural texture, and then load that into our editor. And the first thing we do is start to add lights so that we can see what's going on. We place lights around the scene, and we modify their range so that we can make the terrain visible. These procedural textures are generated from other programs and then modified slightly in Photoshop before we bring them into Particle Planet's editor. We place multiple lights around the scene so that we get not just a uniform glow, but glows occurring throughout different parts of the level. Now I'm using the terrain smoothing tool to get rid of some of the rougher spikiness that appears in the level. This brush is essentially a smooth, trying to give it a little bit more of a softer feeling. Now I'll start using the painting tool, which will allow us to give some color and life to the level. The brush is a little slow, but it does a volumetric coloring, so we get nice blending. I'm just changing the amount of noise in the brush so that the blocks are more visible. And now I've sped up the animation by 6 times so that you don't have to watch me paint the entire level. Painting in some of the open spaces with bright colors. I'm going to go back with some more intentionally saturated colors to give it a little bit more depth. Now you can see I switch between the smooth tool and the painting tool. So here I'm actually building up some more terrain in this area, and then going back to the painting tool and coloring it in. I'm just kind of putting this color throughout the level. Now I've switched to purple to give the level some more depth and richness. And the purple creates kind of a nice contrast with the blue. So those two colors seem to work well. Now I've focused on this particular area as I've decided that this is kind of where the level is going to begin. This is kind of arbitrary decision. I just decided that this would be a nice place to start because it's kind of a flat open space. I'm adding a little bit more color to it, and now I'm going to play with the lighting a little so that it gives kind of a nice starting feeling, changing the range of the lights. Not sure what that block is there, hovering in space. I'm just save the level, and I'll get rid of that odd block floating in space. Okay, this looks like a good place to start the level. So now I'm going to start creating the level. The grow block, this level is going to be about crystals, I've decided. So I'm going to start with the grow block, which is the action block for allowing the player to create crystals. I'm going to make it purple. And I'm going to set the color pretty dark so that I can actually see the purple fairly well. So these grow blocks allow crystals to grow, and changing the growth to the major value is the dimension, how large the crystal will grow. And I'm going to set that a little bit lower because I don't want it to be too big. I think it might also be nice to have some crystals that really show the crystals growing without the user having to do anything. That is, some crystals just growing on their own. And those I can just add by adding crystal blocks. I'm using copy paste to copy the crystal. And now I've just tested it. And see that the crystals do grow the way I want. They actually seem a little bit big, so I'm going to reduce their size down to 5 from 20 so they don't grow quite so large. I'll try that again. That's a little bit better, closer to the size that I'd like. Can the user grow crystals off of others? Yes. So that's the behavior I really wanted them to explore, is being able to I want the player to be able to grow crystals off other crystals and use that as a gameplay mechanic. So that appears to be working. A lot of the coding for crystals was done earlier on. That is the internal coding of crystals was done earlier on. Now I'm just kind of assembling them, and I want the player to really be drawn to the block that they can use, so I'm going to modify its color and make it a bit more apparent that that crystal is something the user might be able to move around themselves. So that looks pretty good. Now I need some kind of goal for them to get to, and with crystals the goal is really to have crystals grow up into space. So it seems like a nice goal would have crystals grow up to touch the gates as an achievement. So I'm going to build the gates upward. I'll start by using the build tool. The build tool will let me create a cube of blocks, and then I'll just give it a little bit more visual variation by taking the corners and creating the tower. And I'll put the gate at the top of the tower. So the way the gates work with crystals is if the crystal touches the gate in any way, then it's activated and they've achieved that gate. I'll use a light to draw visual attention to the gate and kind of set it off. And I've been using the design idea that gates are all usually orange, just to make sure that they're clear from level to level. So I'm going to color the gate blocks orange. And now it starts to really look like a gate. Changing the intensity of the light a little bit. So now I have a gate for the crystal level, and I have a player block that they can use to grow crystals. Whoops, that was a mistake. I hit Control Z undo to undo that painting mistake. And now I'll try it. So I'm going to grab the growing block and put it on the crystal, and it looks like it misses. So that's not quite what I want. I want the very first one to be very easy. I want it to basically just introduce the level and show that the player can achieve something on their own. So I want the first one to be very easy to accomplish. So I'm going to move the automatically growing crystal over to be in line with the gate, and I'm going to add a few more grows so they have an easier way to make these. Oh, another painting mistake. Oop, there it goes again. I'll have to undo this or paint it out. Looks like I'm trying painting it out. Okay, and now I've painted these grow blocks. So I have 3 of them, so they can experiment a little bit more if they don't get it on the first try. So it grows. I might need to do it again, and yep, there we go. I've achieved it. Oops, it looks like both lights went up into the sky. So I didn't want both lights to go up into the sky, so I'm going to change the achievement on one of the lights so that it doesn't get accomplished, and I'm also going to make it hidden so it doesn't appear in the final level. Try again. Okay, that looks good, and pretty easy to achieve. So that was my goal as a level designer, and the goal of the player is to just grow crystals until you achieve gates. So I'm going to continue the level building onto the second gate. I want this to be kind of easily visible, so I'm going to place it fairly close to the first gate. And I'm going to make another gate tower. I'll put it over here, it looks like. Yeah, that's a good place for it. So I'll make another gate tower, and I'll build it up in the same way. We don't have a volume copy tool yet, so that's something to be added to the editor. And put the gates on the top again, and light source. I'll just copy the colors over from the other one. I hold down the Shift key to copy a color from another block. And then I can just start painting by clicking the left button. Now here I'm going to set the achievement to 1 so that I can tell the system that this is the next gate. So I'm setting the achievements for these to 1, and I'm setting the achievement, I'll set the achievement of the light to 1 as well. So the first gate is achievement 0 and the next gate is achievement 1. So I'm going to induce, I want the next puzzle to be a little harder. I don't want them to just be able to reach out to the gate again. So I'm going to introduce another mechanic, which is that crystals will shatter or die if they touch what's called Deathland. So Deathland is painted using terrain type 240. So I just painted the Deathland, and I can see that it does shatter. The blocks are a little bit bright, but it does shatter. Try it again. I went into the program and made them the shattering appear not so bright. I want to grow a little bit bigger so that I can see the effect more clearly of touching the Deathland and shattering the crystal. Okay, it looks a little better. The whole crystal doesn't shatter, so I'm going to have to change the program a little to do that. But I can still grow stuff off of it, and that's not really what I want. I want the first one to just show the shattering and not allow you to do anything with that. So what I'm going to do is put another monolith here in the way so that they can't directly touch the gate as they could in the first challenge. It seems like a good place to put it. I want both of them to really be visible. So again, I need to change this to terrain type 240 so that I can get it to be Deathland. So it will cause crystals to shatter. And I want it to be a lot darker. Nope, didn't get it yet. Yep. Not so much noise. There we go. That's the kind of darkness I'm going for. Okay, that looks pretty good. Maybe add a little bit more variation to it by changing the amount of noise in the paint tool. And let's see what happens. So that first crystal's not quite close enough. I really want to show them that it shatters. So I'm going to make sure that that happens by putting the crystal closer to the Deathland. And there we go. Well, little pieces of it shatter. There we go. I just modified the program so that the whole crystal will shatter. That was done internally. So now I can grow crystals off of other crystals and achieve the gate. There we go. Growing crystals off of others. Is it? Yep. And there we go. If I try and do it to one of the others, then it shatters. So that's really the behavior I want. So that one's essentially done. I finished designing that. There's an obstacle, and you have to get past that obstacle for this next gate. So now, where am I going to do this next? I think it seems like the train is kind of blocking me. So maybe it'd be cool if you have to just go over the wall here. So maybe I'll just put the gate directly in the wall. That might be kind of visually interesting. So I'm just going to build the gate directly into the wall. And it might look cool if it's kind of embedded in the wall. So I'll delete some blocks so it looks like a column sitting inside the wall. Just grab some blocks from here or there. And I need some crystals to get me started. The player can only grow crystals off of other crystals, so I need something happening in the area to get me started. So now I need some actions for the player to play. Put a light so I can set off the gate, and I have to remember to set the achievements to 2. So these are all going to be 2 now. The last were 0 and 1. So I set the light achievement and the gate achievement to 2. And let's see how it plays now. So that's still working. It shatters. I need to kind of go around this gate. Oop, okay, missed it. I need a few more blocks to give them more choices. It's still a little too hard. There's not quite enough blocks. Yep. One of the interesting things about Particle Planet is you might not be able to solve it the first time on every try. You may have to retry a few times, just because of the randomness, this kind of statistical nature of how things grow. So I'm going to make it a little bit easier and more likely to succeed by giving the player more blocks, more growth crystals. I don't want it to be too hard to achieve. I want interesting puzzles to be exposed as you proceed through gates, but I don't want each gate to be that difficult. So that's not so bad, and I have now enough blocks that I can achieve this one. Let's see if I can do this one. Okay, that first crystal grows, and I can grow stuff off of it. And there, I finally got it. I achieved that second gate. Okay, so this actually want to be appear. The range here on a crystal sets when it becomes visible. So if the player pans the camera within a particular range, that crystal will be visible. So I'm making these crystals appear and grow sooner. Now, what am I going to do next? I like this kind of cavernous area of the terrain, and it's kind of an interesting kind of channel. So it seems like maybe a liquid or water could flow through there, and that might be interesting. So to prevent it from flowing backwards and to flow downhill, I'm going to use the terrain tool to build up the terrain. And then I'm going to smooth it over so that it kind of blends into the background a little bit more. So holding down Shift and running smooth. That looks pretty good. Just smoothing it out a little bit more. So I think I'll have water flow down here. So I need to use the creator block. So what's going to happen here at the end? I don't want the water to flow out just into the rest of the world, so I'll just create some dams or raise the terrain here so that the water stays in this section of the map. I just want it to exist for maybe this or the next puzzle, but I don't want it to go over the entire map. So just raise the ground up, and I'm smoothing it out again. Okay. So now I'm ready to create the water, and I'll add a creator block. It starts out green. I want it to really blend in with the background, so I'm going to modify the color and make it that kind of deep purple. Whoops. Oh, didn't want to do that. There we go. Painting the creator block purple. And I'm now going to change it so that it doesn't spit out critters, but that it spits out water. So I just click on the creator held block, and then I change it to water. I'm going to set it to output an infinite number of waters and make them come out very quickly because I want this space to fill up very rapidly. So I don't like the color here so much. I'm going to probably have to go back and change the color, but I'll do that later. I just want to get the mechanic figured out for this next gate. So let's see, what am I going to do? Just kind of make this up as I go along. I got to think of each puzzle as kind of building on the previous, so it's slightly more challenging, but not exceptionally difficult. I think what might be interesting is maybe if you could, maybe it was not so easy to grow crystals up to a gate this time. So I'm going to definitely build another gate inside of here. And it seems like just the center of this is a good place to build it. I haven't totally quite decided the mechanic yet, but I do know that I want the player to proceed through gates. So I'll build the same kind of structure that I did before. I'll just do a copy paste of these gate blocks. That'll be fastest. Control C, Control V. There's a little bug. I can't drop the gate directly on top of the other one. That's actually a copy-paste bug. So I'll just paste it nearby and then move it to the top. Going to set the achievements to 3 now. Whoops, I missed it. Change that to 3. There we go. And now grab the light and put the light on top and change that to 3, achievement 3. There we go. Okay, that's the next gate. And what I need to give them some crystals so they can play it. Oh, actually, I don't want crystals. I want grow blocks. Those are the action blocks for the player. So I'll give them a bunch of playable grow blocks. That's kind of, it seems like a nice, cool place to put them. And let's see what happens. So water comes down. That's cool. Now, I think that what might be interesting here is if they couldn't drop them right on the ground. And I'm going to do that by painting Deathland directly on the ground. So where we had it appear in columns before, now I'm going to just change to terrain type 240. I'm going to increase the brush size so I can paint a little bit. And then I can quickly paint the Deathland directly onto the ground. So this means that if they place a grow block anywhere on this Deathland, it's going to cause the crystal to shatter. Of course, water will still be able to flow over it here. Okay, I think I'll paint the tower as well, because I don't want them to be able to just build their crystal off the tower and then achieve the gate quickly. Okay, well, let's try that. So water comes down, and if I drop the grow block, so yep, onto the ground, it just shatters. Yep, it's just shattering because it's touching the ground. Okay, that's kind of what I want. Now, it doesn't quite fall down, so I'm going to have to go in and modify the code so that the gates fall down and don't just hover there in space if there's water that moves out from under them. I'm going to add a few more just so they have more of an ability to achieve it. One of the most frustrating things if you don't give enough tools for the player to achieve something, even though they've done everything right up to that point. So add a few more. Okay, that's pretty good. That's enough probably. I'll try it again. So as expected, they shatter if you place them directly on the in between the water if you try and do this too early. So the idea here I think I'm going to go for is that maybe what happens here is that you let the water fill up the space, and that's the only way to achieve it, because it might be interesting if you could grow the crystals right out of the water. And so the way to achieve this may be that you can't, if you place them too early, they'll shatter by touching the ground, but if I place it on the water, then I can have it grow up and touch the gate. So that's a pretty nice mechanic. I think that could probably work. So I'm gonna use that mechanic, which I just figured out. I'm speeding up the painting here again by 4 times and showing the lighting. I think this is a nice kind of new area to explore for the next gate. And I'm gonna fill in some painting and give it a lot more richness. Paint some blue here and change the light, make the lighting more interesting. And what's the next one going to be? Well, I think what would be interesting is if just kind of arbitrarily deciding these things as I go, but maybe it would be interesting if you had to bring the water to you this time. That is, if the player had to bring the water. So they already know now that they can, from the previous gate, that they can grow crystals out of water and grow them out to touch gates. So rather than just repeat that, I'm going to build on that and say, well, maybe now the player has to also bring the water to themselves. And so in this maybe that would be achieved by having bombs blow up the terrain so that the water can flow down to the next gate. And in order for there's quite a bit of a terrain here in between the previous gate and the next, so they're probably going to need quite a few bombs. So I'm just going to scatter this terrain with bombs and sparks. The sparks are needed to set off the bombs, as we learn in kind of the intro level. I'm moving them down because when I went back and looked at the first gate, I saw all this stuff and I didn't want it to clutter their view. I don't want the player to be distracted by what's coming up in the next gate. So from here I can see that things are nice and clean, and then when I come down and look around I can see that there's more going on. But I don't want to visually distract them from the previous gate. So now things are kind of more laid out, more or less where I want them. I'm going to build another gate here. I just sped up the process a bit. Build another gate, paint the gate blocks, and change their achievement level. Now let's see if I can, I need to paint the train here again to Deathland. Whoops, 240, not 241. There we go. So painting the Deathland so that they can't just trivially solve it again. It looks pretty good. Okay. Oh yeah, I need to bring some crystals down so that they can have a way to solve it. So I'll just copy paste these over here. Follow the same kind of pattern of putting up on these little pillars along the wall. Makes them kind of easily visible, and it's kind of nice place to put them. Okay. There we go. Adding a few more. Okay, let's give that a try. So, this goal, this next gate, is essentially to not be able to grow things near the gate. Whoops. Okay, so that's not supposed to happen. It's too easy because the grow blocks were essentially touching the gate. Even though they had shattered and died, they were still able to achieve the gate. So I actually need to maybe build the gate out a bit so you can't just contact it directly. It's kind of a fine line between what things I want to make challenging and what things are really just kind of cheating from the perspective of the game. It's not necessarily cheating, but I don't want them to be able to just directly achieve the gate without going through some of the more interesting intermediate stuff. So I'll just make the gate a little bigger so the crystals can't directly grow to it. Add some of the Deathland around so that it will shatter crystals that are grown nearby. So you really have to go up and over this in order to achieve the gate. Okay, here I'm just deleting the gates. Yeah, I want to kind of raise this up a little bit. Make the gate a little bit taller. So I'll just put some blocks up there, add a gate block, copy it and make another one, because I've been just follow the same pattern using two. I remember to set the achievement again. And there we go. It doesn't get achieved if I put crystals right next to it, so that's good. And now the question is, can I just checking here if I can still achieve the last one? Yep, I can. And now can I bring the water down? Can I bring the water down and make this gate work? So I'm going to blow up the terrain. Remember, thinking now as the player, kind of put my mind in the space of the player. And blow up some of this terrain. Oh, and looks like I ran out of bomb blocks. So I need to go back. I added in a few. I cut out a clip there where I added a few more blocks in. I want to make this part of the terrain a little bit more visible, so I'm going to cut down the existing map a little bit. A little bit of sculpting here. I want to kind of maintain the spire look, so only deleting some intermediate blocks and keeping some towers. There we go. Okay. So to finish this out, I think I'm going to repeat this to the right here. It seems like there's two ways the water can go down, so I'm just going to go with it, kind of go with what the map tells me, and have there be two gates where you bring water to both of them. Now this one will be a little bit maybe farther or harder to reach. Mix up the shape of the gate a little bit, make it bigger perhaps. Sped up the animation of the construction of this gate again. Just stealing blocks off the terrain makes it really fast to build stuff. Now I'm copying, pasting the gate blocks again. I'll do a few more here. And now I'm going to copy paste, setting the achievements to 5. So this is the final gate for this. Set the achievements up, add some light blocks to give it some depth, and change the achievements of the lights to 5. So now let's see what happens from back here. The water comes down. If I try and grow blocks directly too early, then they shatter. This is what the player's kind of learning from this gate. And if I grow off the water, whoops, I just kind of missed there. Try that again. Oh, missed again. Interesting. Oh, seems I'm having trouble achieving this. There we go, I got it. And now, it shattered at the last minute, but I still achieved the gate. I think that's okay. I think that's kind of an interesting mechanic, actually. So I'm just going to leave that. Now I'm going to blow up the terrain to get the water down here. That seems to be working. I've given them enough bomb blocks so they can really do this. I'll blow up some stuff over here. Maybe bring the water down this way. Oh, I still have a little piece there that I need to blow up to bring the water. I've rotated the camera there. The player should be able to do that. So now I've got the water coming down. And if I try and grow here, whoop, there we go. I got it to grow out of the water. Growing crystals out of the water, and I achieved the gate. That looks pretty good. Okay, well, shattered again, but it's really kind of cool looking, so I'm definitely going to leave that. That shattering is really nice. Okay, there I can grow the crystals over here, and that gets me all the way. Whoop! That almost gets me to the gate. Looks like I just missed. That gate looks like actually I just set the gate improperly, so it's not a correctly operating gate. I need to modify the achievement level on that. I haven't actually achieved it. I still missed. Let's go back. So I'm fixing these two gate blocks. The achievements weren't set correctly on the bottom here to 5. So now they'll all those defective gates are fixed. Okay. I want this to be a little easier. It was not that easy because the crystals were essentially shattering even though they were coming out of the water, they were still shattering because they were touching blocks that were above the water, deathlands that were above the water. So I'm going to go back and delete all the higher level deathlands and just leave one layer. So when that layer gets completely covered with water, then there's no way for the crystals to continue to shatter. And that will make the play mechanic much smoother so that they can just go through and play. And once they figure out they need to wait for the water to come, then they can just build the crystal directly on the water and it should just work. And I also made it so they can't build the crystal on the tower itself. Got to try and account for everything the player might try and do, which is impossible, of course, but we try. So there we grow the crystal try to grow the crystal out of the water, and that's working. And continue to grow it until I can touch the gate. So that's worked. Now again, repeated iteration of testing is really important. Just keep testing and testing. So I'm blowing up the terrain in between. I'll do this some more over here at the same time. Blow up the terrain in between. Okay, that's working. Just need to get some water down here. There we go. I'll grow the crystals directly out of the water. And they're achieved it. I'll grow the crystals over here. That seems to be working. Might have just enough crystals to get this over there. I gotta kind of get over that Deathland and touch the gate without touching the Deathland. Almost got it. Oh, I still almost got it. I need one more. I know it's hidden back in there. I can't get to it. I'm gonna go over and grab it and bring it over. Just stick it on a wall temporarily. Okay, there we go. And I got it, finally. Shatter at the same time. But I did achieve the gate. I got the gate to work. So I'm going to make sure that I can't build the gate off of this. Make it a little more visually interesting. Just speed up this process here. Adding some more lights to make this last gate a little more interesting. Set the achievements to be the same. And do a little painting. That looks pretty good. And that's it. So now I'm going to try running this level from the very beginning. So play through everything. I like the beginning, how the crystals just appear automatically. They just show that this is about growing crystals, immediately visible to the player. The player just starts adding crystals on other crystals, and they can see that that's pretty easy to do. They achieve the first gate. Oh, okay, they kind of shatter here. That's interesting. Oh, yep, they do. If I try and grow them into the Deathland, they'll shatter. But I can grow them off other things, so maybe I'll just go around this and not touch the Deathland. Okay, that's interesting. I still haven't quite got the gate yet. There, I got it. Achieved that next gate. So now there's a crystal there. I can grow it off of here and try and get to this next gate. Got it. Got the next gate. I've already modified the color of this water to blue now, so it looks a lot nicer. Oops, I can't really build them in off the Deathland. So how am I going to do this? I can't build them. I can't do it off the gate itself. So how am I going to get the crystals up to touch that gate? Maybe I can do it directly off the water. Ah, yes, that works. That's nice. So there, the gate. That gate's achieved by growing the crystals out of water. So now, as a player, I know that I can grow them out of water. So maybe I just need to get some water down to this next gate. It might take a little bit more time for a player to figure these things out, but I'm just playing through mentally what the player needs to do to get here. Can I build them here? Oh, that's actually a bug. You're not supposed to be able to grow them off the crystal. So as the designer, I'm going to have to go back and modify that a little bit. I didn't want that to be so easy to do. Well, let's try the next one. Okay, so I blow up the terrain to get the water down here. There we go. I need it to be a little bit closer. I'll get a little bit more coming. Now I know I need to get the crystal to touch the gate, and I can grow it out of water. That looks nice. Let's just have it grow around this here. I might have enough to touch it. And yep, there, I got it. Shatter, but I did achieve that gate. So that's it. That's the design of the first 5 gates of the Crystal Cove level. And looking back, we see these crystals growing over these gates. So that's basically how we do level design.